Community radio. Ever thought about community radio? Community radio gives a voice to the voiceless, and 3CR 855 on your AM dial is the community radio station, which is a powerful force, not just in the city of Melbourne, but around this country and even overseas. So what is community radio? Why is it important in a digital age where people think the only thing that's important is the net? Why is community radio important? Why is 3CR important? Why has it survived for over 40 years? Why do people continue to listen? Why does it continue to broadcast 24 hours a day, 365 days a year? What is it about radio which is such an important part of so many people's life? Whether it's community radio, government gilded ABC, or the corporate-owned media, radio continues to survive despite all the new innovations which have occurred. Now, if you come with me, we'll go through 3CR and I'll talk to you. I'll sit down and I'll talk to you about the origins of community radio in Australia, the origins of 3CR, why 3CR is important in 2019, and why it'll continue to be important once I'm dead and buried. Here we go. This is where our volunteers sit. This is the hub of the radio station on this side. This is where the permanent staff sit. Over 400 volunteers, 4 permanent staff. What other organisation runs 365 days a year and 366 days a year with 4 permanent staff and actually broadcasts 144 hours a week? But 3CR. Now, if we walk down the corridor here, the front desk. Oh, look at this! Look at this! I even feed them.
Don't look at my lunch.
You've heard about the smell of an oily rag. Look at these salubrious surroundings. They make their own tea and coffee here at 3CR. There's all the programmers. Incredible, isn't it? Beyond Zero, Done by Law, West Papua, The Nile Show, Somali, Ethiopian, Anarchist World This Week, Radical Australia, Talk Back with Attitude, Palestine Remembered, and on it goes. And look at this. Who dedicates 24-hour broadcasts on International Women's Day? At Community Radio 3CR. Look at the stickers, the posters, all the campaigners. Radio station has been involved in. A radio station that runs on the smell of an oily rag. But we do have something nice. We have nice toilets. This is where the weary souls come to have a fag. Could you imagine that? Broadcasters at Community Radio 3CR having a fag after a show? Unbelievable. I mean, the only good thing about them having a fag, it's good for my business. But I prefer them not to smoke, but you can't help it. Look at this. Look at this beautiful garden. And under here is Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth. Well, what's left of them? Poor things. You know? And look at the beautiful apartment block next to 3CR. We used to have a proper building there. Now look at this, a monstrosity. But that's life. Fertiliser. Unbelievable. Where else can you come and get some free fertiliser but Community Radio 3CR? Okay. Alright, here we go. Here we are in Studio 3 in Community Radio 3CR, 21 Smith Street, Fitzroy, 855 on your AM dial, streaming live on 3cr.org.au. This is a community radio station. It's one of hundreds around the country. Now, you wouldn't believe it that there were no community radio stations in the early 1970s. It was the Whitlam Labor government, hamstrung by a corporate-owned media and a government guild and a timid ABC, who believed that the people should be in control of broadcasting in this country. And they issued a number of licenses in 1976 to community radio stations, and Community Radio 3CR was one of the first groups, radical groups, to get a license to broadcast in this country. People think radio is dead in 2019. Well, it's not dead. Because genetically, we are programmed for sound. when we came out of that veldt in the African plains, human beings relied on their hearing for survival, not their eyesight, but their hearing. A crack on a twig told you, warned you of possible danger. So hearing has always been an essential part of the human experience. The thing about radio is it's immediate. And I've been broadcasting now for 40 years, a number of programs here at Community Radio 3CR, which I'll talk about later. And what people say to me, it's like I am talking to them in their home. And that's what radio is. It's immediate. It grabs your attention. You can be doing things and still be listening. It can actually, it is a critical tool. And I'm saying tool for a reason. Those of you who remember the Rwandan massacres in 1999 may not realise that the medium that was used to stir up hatred in the community was radio, which resulted in the massacre of over 900,000 Rwandans in an 8-week period. Radio was used by the Nazis very effectively as a propaganda tool. So radio itself is neither good or bad, but it's how it's utilised is what's important. Now, the idea of having a community radio station was to allow sections of the community who are misrepresented in the mainstream media, the corporate-owned media, and the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, to be able to use that medium to get their message across uncensored to the population as a whole. And community radio has continued to play a significant role in Australia because of its ability to appeal directly to people. Now, Community Radio 3CR has an exceptionally important role to play in the radical community in Melbourne and the regions outside Melbourne for the last 40 years. It is not a radio station which pretends to be non-biased while being biased. It is a radio station which is biased towards the needs of the powerless and the voiceless. It gives the powerless and the voiceless the ability to articulate their story in their own words. It gives people the ability to actually organise on a wider basis around the community. This radio station has been involved in some extraordinary social activities, political activities over the decades. It has been at the forefront of bringing together people at the cutting edge of this society. It is single-handedly brought issues of gender equality, racism, disability discrimination to the fore. It has put forward ideas which 40 years ago were considered to be radical, which today are now accepted by the general community. And that has been through volunteers. Now, 3CR's strength lies in its ability not only to put the message across, but its ability not to be able to be pressured by government and the corporate sector. 3CR does not rely on government donations or grants to survive. It doesn't rely on patrons to survive. It relies on its listeners and its affiliates. This community radio station is owned by its affiliates. These are organisations of diverse opinion who've come together to fund, support and run 3CR. Most organisations have lots of paid staff and very few volunteers. 3CR relies on volunteers. It has over 400 volunteers who are actively involved in the running of the station. Not just in terms of physical work, but in terms of actually being able to be part of the management committee through an election process, through listener subscribers. 3CR money comes from three main sources. One, a radio fine every year, which raises over $200,000. It comes from listener subscribers.
listeners who subscribe to be members of 3CR, which gives them voting rights in terms of the management committee. And it also relies on affiliates who pay affiliation fees. As I said, I've been involved in 3CR since 1977. Currently I'm doing 3 programs. The Anarchist World this week, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. every Wednesday. This is broadcast nationally through the Community Radio Network. That program is podcast. You can access that podcast by going to 3cr.org.au. Over the last 7 years, I've been doing Radical Australia. The Anarchist World this week I've done for over 40 years. Radical Australia I've been doing for about 7 years. And what we do in Radical Australia is we interview people. They may be household names. Nobody's ever heard of them. But what we do is, over an hour, we talk to people about why they've taken a radical turn in their lives. What is it that's important to them? Why have they become activists? And that program is also podcast on 3cr.org.au. And I also co-host with Patricia, who is the chairperson of the Community Radio Federation, the current chairperson. We do Talk Back with Attitude, which allows people to ring the radio station once a week from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on a Thursday morning to voice their opinions on particular issues. That's us 3 hours of the 144 hours. We have an extraordinary variety of broadcasters, music programs, political programs, environmental programs, queer programs, gender-based programs, climate change programs, and we have a whole bevy of non-English speaking programs in the evening, from a Somali show to a Nile show, which is an Arabic show which actually looks at what's happening in Sudan. We've got Palestinian shows, we've got Greek shows, and the list goes on and on. There's a whole variety of communities in Melbourne that rely on these community radio stations for them. Then we've got a huge Aboriginal presence. Although there's an Aboriginal station and a gay station in Melbourne, many people from the Aboriginal community and Torres Strait Islander community prefer to broadcast from 3CR because of the less onerous demands on their opinions. Because censorship is always an issue in any radio station. The thing about 3CR is it's, to a significant degree, it's lack of censorship. Not in terms of being able to, to be offensive, but in terms of ideas that are expressed and how they're expressed. So this is a valuable community asset which has been understated and undervalued by the community. With the rise of social media and podcasting, Community Radio 3CR has had to join the 21st century. Many of the programs Community Radio 3CR are now podcasts, so listeners can listen to them at their leisure. We've digitalised. The equipment is a little bit modern, but again, 3CR, like any community radio station, has financial issues. Not in terms of being able to run the station, but in terms of the standard of equipment, the type of equipment, and we can always do with new equipment. Now, donations to Community Radio 3CR are tax deductible if they're over $2. So if you want to decide how to direct your taxes, you can donate directly to 3CR. You can give them a ring on 039 419 8377. You can knock on the door at 21 Smith Street, Fitzroy, during working hours, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m, Monday to Friday. You can go to the website, 3cr.org.au. So there's a lot of things you can do. But more importantly, if you're at a loss with what to do with your life, and you've got free time on your hand, 3CR is looking for you. We are always looking for volunteers. Volunteers to do a variety of tasks here at the community radio station. And as I said before, the lifeblood of 3CR is the volunteers, is the flow of volunteers through the organisation. So if you're interested in the community, if you're interested in radical politics, if you're interested in radio, and you've got some time to spare, this is the station for you. We welcome young, we welcome old, we welcome people who have different abilities, we welcome people of all races, all religions, sexual orientation. We want people of different genders. We welcome everybody to Community Radio 3CR. It is ultimately your radio station, especially if you're one of the millions of people in this city and in this country who feels that the social media doesn't represent them, who feel that the corporate-owned media doesn't represent them, who feel that the government-gilded ABC doesn't represent them. This is the place for you. So I encourage you to come and join us and be part of this thriving community which has had a profound impact on issues and social issues and political issues in this city, this state, in this country over the last 42 years. Because many of the programs Community Radio 3CR are broadcast nationally through the Community Radio satellite. Over 10 programs which come from the 3CR studios, including the Anarchist World This Week, are broadcast through the Community Radio network across a multitude of community radio stations across this country. This is an important tool for social change. It's an important tool for political change. It's an important tool for cultural change. This is your ability to become involved in something that is greater than you, but it's your contribution which will keep community radio station on air. Your financial contribution, your labour, your ideas, your passion. Come and join the family. We have our arguments, we scratch each other's eyes out, but at the end of the day, we kiss and make up. So join this great family, Community Radio 3CR, 855 on your AM dial, streaming on 3cr.org.au. My name's Joseph Toscano. I've been a member of 3CR since 1977. As I said before, 3 radio programs I'm currently doing. Anarchist World This Week, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on a Wednesday, which is podcast. Radical Australia, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. on a Wednesday, which is podcast. And Talk Back with Attitude, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Go to the website, look at the huge range of programs, pick and choose which programs you want to listen to, and if you can't listen to them live because you're at work, you're asleep, because we broadcast 24 hours a day, you can always look at the ones that are podcast. Get involved, become part of this community. We need you, you need us. Together we can be an extraordinary force for radical, egalitarian, social, cultural and political change, not just in Melbourne, not just in Victoria, but the whole of Australia and overseas. I welcome you and the staff here at 3CR. Would love to see you, to knock on the door and volunteer to be part of this great organisation. You may have noticed I've put my glasses on, and why have I put my glasses on? Because I'm looking at Radical Radio celebrating 40 years of 3CR. This is a book which documents the history of this great radio station. It's available from the station for $30. I encourage you to buy it, to learn what the station is about, learn about all the interesting people that have been part of this community radio station. It is an extraordinary book. You'll see many people here who are no longer with us, who have died. You'll see the range of social, political movements, and if you're really, really bored, you can even see a section on myself. But I won't show you that because that wouldn't be very nice. But there's some really fascinating stuff. It gives you a background. It took a year to research, and I'd like to thank Juliette Fox here at 3CR for doing most of the hard work, putting this extraordinary publication together. So you want to learn about 3CR, you can't volunteer, you can't donate, buy the book. $30. What can you get for $30 that can change your life? Maybe an astrology reading, but I think they're more than that these days. Alright, off you go. Community Radio 3CR, 855 on your AM dial. Tune in, listen to the multitude of voices you'll never hear anywhere else.